Hello, it's Rice Force here back at you with another video. And today talk's gonna be faces the giants in your life. So we all got giants in our lives. So we're gonna go to, I'm not gonna read the whole chapter. It takes a while to go over. Well, we're gonna go over 1 Samuel chapter 17. So just read that. There's 58 verses. So chapter 17, verse 4. A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a bronze helmet and on his head and wore a scale armor and a bronze weighing 5,000 skeletons, something like that. On his legs, he wore bronze greaves and a bronze javelin was swung on his back. In case you don't know what javelin is, it's kind of like nunchucks. So the part you hold is kind of like nunchucks, but the other part is like a ball. And it has spikes on it, so that's what a javelin is. Not sure if any of y'all was aware of that. Now the skeletons, I'm gonna do some more research on that, see how much that is, because I don't quite understand it. But the 6 cubits and a span. Well, cubits, they're 1.5 feet, so they're 18 inches. So cubits are bigger than a foot. And the span, I'm not quite sure what a span was, but some Bibles, they say that Goliath's like 9'9". How much he weighed was anybody's guess. Put that 9'9". He's 2 feet taller than a mountain. From Game of Thrones, that actor. I believe he's like 6'8" or 6'9", the actor is that played the mountain. And that guy weighs around 420, 450, something like that. He's a big guy. So Goliath, he could have been like 500-600 pounds. Maybe even 700 pounds, who knows? Kind of depends on how he was built. That guy, he was huge. And the people feared him. I mean, even his David brothers were scared of this guy. Let's go to verse 20. Early in the morning, David left the flock and carried the shepherd low up and set out as Jesse had directed. He reached the camp as the army was going out to its battle position, shouting war cry. Israel and the Philistines were drawing up their lines, facing each other. David left his things with the keeper of supplies, ran to the battle lines, and asked his brothers how they were. After he was talking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, stepped out from his line and shouted his usual defiance, and David heard it. Whenever the Israelites saw the man, they all fled from him in great fear. So this guy was huge, 9'9". Just think of a school bully when you were a kid, if you had a school bully. They would always put fear in you. You were scared to fight them. Some of y'all might have been scared to fight that bully. So you just kept picking on you. So this is pretty much what Goliath is. Now the Israelites has been saying, do you see how this man keeps coming out? He comes out to defy Israel. The kings will give great wealth to the man who kills him. He will also give him his daughter in marriage and will exempt his family from taxes in Israel. So Saul was king at that point. So I guess even Saul was scared of Goliath. And the Bible does say that tall, that Saul was also a big man. And Goliath is obviously bigger than him. Saul was scared of him too. I want to point out Saul was scared of Goliath, because if he wasn't, he would have fought Goliath himself. Now David asked the men standing near him, what will be done for them? Oh yeah, I already went over that. So what verse will I go over next? Oh, verse 28, his brother being a jerk. When Eliab, David's oldest brother, heard him speaking with the men, he burned with anger at him and asked, why have you come down here? And with who did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? So his brother being a little jerk, complaining to David. I never had an older brother, so I don't quite know what it's like, but I did have a younger brother. I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. You came down only to watch the battle. So I guess his brother like, oh, you just want to see some violence. That's what his brother's pointing out. And David responded, now what I have done, said David, can I even speak? He then turned away to someone else and brought up the same matter. And the man answered him as before. What David said was overheard and reported to Saul. And Saul sent for him. David said to Saul, let no one lose heart on account for this Philistine. Your servants will go and fight him. Saul replied, you are not able to go out against the Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth. So you want to go over this chapter on your own time, you're free to go over it. Because I always going to want to skip over some verses. So what verse do I want to go over next? Okay, verse 41. Meanwhile, the Philistine with his shield barrier in front of him kept coming close to David. He looked David over and saw that he was little more than a boy, glowing with health, handsome, and he despised him. He said to David, am I a dog that you come at me with sticks? And the Philistine crushed David by his claws. Come here, he said, and I will give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals. David said to the Philistines, you come against me with a sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, who you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. David, my boy David, pointed out he said he's gonna cut off his head. This very day I will give the carcass of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole earth will know that there is a God in Israel, and those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves. For the battle of the Lord, and he will give all of you into our hands. As the Philistine moved closer to attack him, David ran quickly towards the battle line to meet him. Reaching to his bag and taking out a stone, he swung it and struck the Philistine on the forehead. The stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell face down onto the ground. So obviously that rock obviously went into his head. It got into his brain and it killed him. So that's probably as close to getting shot in the head with a bullet that you could have gotten back in those days, because they ain't had guns. Obviously, if David had a gun, I believe he would have shot David with his gun. But he had a slingshot. By the way, it wasn't the slingshot you shoot like this. This slingshot, you spin it around, and then you just threw it. You aim and you kind of threw it, the rock, and it went into Goliath's head. So he fell to the ground. Now, verse 50. So David trampled over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, with a sword in his hand. He struck down a Philistine and killed him. So it's saying he struck down a Philistine. So Was he on the ground already, or was he on the verge of dying? He could have been on the verge of dying, and David strike him down and cut off his head. Or he could have just died right when he got hit with that rock. So either way, David took care of Goliath. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they ran. Then the men of Israel, Judah, surged forward with a shout in pursuit of Philistines to the entrance of Gath and to the gates of Akron. Their dead were strewn along I don't know how can you pronounce those words. When the Israelites returned from chasing out the Philistines, they plundered the camp. David took the Philistines' head, bore it to Jerusalem. He put the Philistines' weapons in his own tent. So here's this boy. He's a nobody. He walks up to, he's just a shepherd. He wasn't a soldier, but he just walks up to David. He gets that rock and, David walks up to Goliath. He takes that rock, that slingshot, and just kills Goliath. Goliath was a giant. People were scared of him. And I imagine people thought their brother was going to get killed, was going to get murdered, because he's just a little boy. He could have been like 13. He might have been 16. We don't know how old he was. I believe he was a teenager, by the way. And he defeated Goliath. He defeated that giant. He'd amaze everybody. But there's giants in all of our lives. Some of us is depth. That depth just looks so big. $200,000 in student loan debt. That looks like a giant now, does it? It seems like you're never going to pay it off. Maybe you're struggling to take care of your family. Got a job you just don't like. It's a low paying job. It's like you're facing a giant. Working that low paying job, trying to take care of your family. Maybe you're still living with your parents. They're like really mean to you. You have to deal with them every single day. That's like a giant right there. Some of us are giants. It's a health problem. It may be cancer, it may be a heart problem. Maybe it's like some other disease that's very rare you have, and you're stuck with it. So, we all got giants we gotta deal with. We gotta face our giants with confidence. We gotta believe that God will help us defeat these giants in our lives. Maybe you got an abusive boyfriend, abusive ex. That's like a giant right there. Some of y'all got abusive father. There's giants. Sometimes those giants can be people. Sometimes they can be things in our lives. Maybe you're addicted to alcohol. That might be your giant. So it's different for everybody. But David, he had this giant too. He had to face that giant right there. Because Goliath, he had every intention on killing David. He's going to let the birds eat David up. And by the way, the Israelites, they believe in being buried. So being eaten by birds would have been a disgrace for the Israelite. So that would have been a horrible thing for David. I would have been fine for Goliath killing David's son like that, though. His firstborn son, Amnon, I believe he was. I would have been fine with Goliath murdering that guy. Because I don't like David's firstborn son. I just hate him. And David was rewarded. He didn't get become king right there, but he was selected to be the next king after Saul died, he got to marry Saul's daughter. And he became best friends with his brother-in-law. So there's some good things in his life. I mean, he had more giants afterwards, but it'll be a long story, and I'm about to go over my minutes. I was gonna make a longer video, but I'm having problems with my tablet, so I wasn't able to do it. So just remember, just face your giants with confidence. Have God on your side. And with that being said, have a blessed day. Bye for now.